What is going on, everybody? It is Paragraphs and Power Chords. I am your host, Christoph Paul. I am somehow still alive and somewhat energetic. I think I am because I'm excited to talk to this guest, Matthew Revert. It's fun because I usually talk to Matthew 90% of the time about covers. And I'm going to be honest, I don't want to fucking talk about covers at all because I don't feel like we're working.
I'm completely on board with that. That has been our entire existence together. Covers.
Matthew is a cover artist for Clash. He's with a lot of different presses. He's a great cover artist. And we know each other through cover artists. We were at a point, I don't even know how many we've done. I don't want to think about how many we've done together. That's not why I do this podcast. It's to not think about cover. It's to think, we'll talk about writing, we'll talk about music, but we're not going to talk about cover art.
It's like a plumber going on a podcast and talking about plumbing.
Yeah, let's not do that. But I relate to Matthew because we are fucking artistic jugglers. Because besides being known for being a graphic artist, he does have a great Instagram, Paper Crisis.
That's the one.
At Paper Crisis, but you're also a writer.
Apparently, I am a writer. Not for a long time, but I am a writer, and I do plan to continue being a writer.
And you are a musician, and that's why we have this for writers and musicians. Though this thing might expand more. I might just get some people who are like musicians and have them. My wife jumping in the background. Oh, she's got to take.
Hey, Lisa.
Got to take pics. My wife is here. She's taking pics because God forbid something happens that's not on fucking Instagram. It's not real. It doesn't exist. Our Facebook
and also Twitter. Everything here is being recorded already. This is very
it already exists. This is here. We're literally doing this. No, come on. All right. We're breaking. You're breaking the flow, Lisa. You're breaking the flow. So let's start.
Musicians, writers.
Yeah. Let's start. What the fuck did you start with first? That I'm curious. Like you have you have a bunch of artistic pursuits. What kind of grabbed you first?
Okay, there's a bit of a story to this because I used to, I've always been making art to some extent since I was a kid, but the first thing I really wanted to focus on was music. So from sort of my mid-teens to my early 20s, I was all about I wanted to be a filmmaker as well, but I didn't really have the tools to do that. So I was focusing on music, and I have to be honest, the music I was making back then was fucking terrible. Like I was
and how terrible.
Well, I've always been interested in more extreme forms of music and experimental music and things like that. I've always been drawn to that. And so I was making quite, I guess you could say experimental, but I think the term experimental music is used incorrectly most of the time, because most of the time people aren't really experimenting. They're just making sounds. And I was making sounds that were somewhat similar to albums I thought were good, musicians who I admired, but I had no musical voice myself. But I kept doing this. I released a few
noise or just like
noise, electroacoustic music, things like that. Occasionally some more traditional singer-songwriter stuff as well, because guitar is an instrument I've been playing since I was quite young.
Okay, you are a guitar man. Well, yeah,
I'm a guitar,
and we'll get into that. That's right.
I'm a guitar man, yes. So if there's any instrument I do have some basic aptitude in, it is guitar. But so I was making music. I released a couple of pretty crappy CDRs. Back in the day, CDR labels were a huge thing. Yeah. And there was a couple of labels that released it. I released some CDRs myself. Nothing that I don't even want to mention the project names because I don't want people to look them up.
Yeah.
But it was nothing really. I was making this stuff, finding very little audience for it, and then admitting to myself it doesn't really deserve much of an audience. It's got nothing to say. And I got so frustrated with the music, I decided to start just writing some ridiculous short stories just for my friends. So I was writing some stories. I sent them out to two people. One of those people is one of my best friends, Robert, who happened to be thinking of starting a small press. And he said, I want to release these stories. And then all of a sudden I was a writer. So those stories.
That's how small press kind of works sometimes.
Absolutely. That's also how I became a designer. Yeah, because I said I'd help out with the press however I could. And between everybody involved, I was the only one who even knew how to open Photoshop. So I was a designer because of that.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's
so that's
funny.
how it all started. And so I basically completely turned my back on trying to make music for a long time. I still loved music. I just thought,
Yeah.
no, I've got nothing to say. I've got much more of a voice with
Tough,
writing.
man. I mean, you and I have talked about that like personally, just messaging. Like it
Mm,
is so hard with music,
mm.
and it's hard to it's just hard to keep it going, whether even if you're a one person band, or I mean, for me, I was a rock guy, and I
Mm.
need a band, and it's just so hard to keep that going. It's so hard to make money with it, and
Oh,
anytime you lose money, like that's the thing about music. It's
mm.
with writing, unless you're like self-publishing, and you don't really lose money writing, but you can lose a lot of money with
Oh,
music and
exactly. I
art.
can't even begin to understand how logistically difficult corralling an entire band would be. Part of the reason why I always do things solo
Yeah,
is just because, well,
smart.
it's easier. And it's just easier. I've always been like that. Just try to do as much of it myself as I can.
That's interesting though, that music's the first love, but you kind of like jump from it and back to it though. That's
Well,
interesting.
yeah, it's sort of, yeah. I mean, what was interesting about the way that worked out was, um, I had been writing for a number of years. I had a few books out. I actually found an audience which I never expected to
Yeah.
find, and so I was starting to, I guess, define myself as an author at that point. And I think it was after, it was either between Basil Ganglia and Human Trees or after Human Trees, but I just completely ground to a halt with my writing. I just didn't
Yeah.
know which direction to take it. And I began to feel that same sense of frustration with writing that I used to feel with music,
Yeah.
which made me stop and start writing. And so I have a shitty Tascam 4-track that my sister gave me for Christmas when I was a teenager. I'm gonna show you the Tascam 4-track.
All right. I will describe it to those that are listening auto-wise. He's grabbing.
Okay,
Oh,
so
look
this
at
is,
that. It's beautiful, man. That
yeah, so
gets
it's
it's
a
a tape,
classic. Yeah, it's
a
a tape,
classic
cassette tape.
cassette tape.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So that is
That brings me back to high school.
this was my recording studio for my first LP.
Wow.
Because what happened was I was just so frustrated with my writing, and so what
Yeah.
I would do is at the end of the day, I would just plug a microphone into that 4-track and just fuck around. Like I had this, I used to work this government job at a government library, and one day they were throwing out this
Good.
massive box of informational cassettes about disability pension card or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were 5-minute cassette tapes. And so I had this massive box of 5-minute cassette tapes. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to take one of these 5-minute cassette tapes. I'm going to put it into that Tascam 4-track, and I am just going to record. And I'm going to have an automatic 5-minute limit. So I'm not going to
I love
meander.
it. No, so that's like
Yeah,
it creates this like structure that you have to follow.
exactly.
And
And then
you're doing experimental music with 5-minute track, like a 5.
exactly. And then
That's
the
pretty
other
great.
part of that, I wanted to make sure everything was a first take, and
Yeah.
well, the medium really helped that. But
Yeah.
the key thing there is after that, after I recorded the track, I would rip it to my computer. Then I'd use that same cassette tape to record the next track. So that I used the same tape. I was always wiping over what I did, so that
Wow.
I couldn't go back and tinker. And I also like the idea that all the tracks I was making sort of contain the ghosts of one another. That was kind of interesting to me.
That is
So
interesting.
yeah, I was just doing this stuff just for no real reason. I literally didn't even intend to play it to anybody.
Fascinating to me, because it's like such a different like mentality than like rock pop writing, which I'm like kind of a pop rock writer. You've heard my song,
Well, I have, yeah, and that real emphasis on composition and
Yeah.
structure, and the thing for me was when I write, I'm a very careful writer. I try to write as close to first draft as possible, right from as close to final draft as possible, right from the start, and that meticulousness, while it worked for what I was writing, it can become. Can start to feel really constricting. And so what I loved about what I was doing was the complete removal.
Yeah, no,
of
that sounds
that.
so freeing and fun.
It was. I remember like I was rolling around on the ground with a microphone, and there was all these like power plugs plugged in with like little AC adapters. And every time I'd put a microphone next to it, I'd get these weird power fields.
Yeah.
And so I was like playing power fields, almost like percussion. It was really weird. And
I'm jealous of you guys for experimental music. Like I'm kind of, it's weird in the rock world. We're like, I don't know if that's really music. You know, there's a lot. I don't think that, but a lot of rock guys think that. You know, but it sounds fun. It just sounds fun.
It was fun, but more than that, it's like when I recorded these little 5-minute tracks. So you know, I would listen back to it, thinking this is absolute nonsense. But holy shit! For the first time in my life, this music actually has my voice in it. All that stuff I used to record.
That's
that
true.
Was just and I love that. And so I was recording this stuff just and feeling really liberated with it. And there's they're not around anymore, unfortunately, but there's this great label called Kai Records that was run by Graham Lampkin, who, if you are sort of into that world of music, he's quite a renowned name. He was in the Shadow Ring and has done a lot of amazing solo work. And he had this label called Kai Records, and I was helping him out with some layout for his LPs, and we became more and more friendly. And this one day I happened to mention that what I'd been doing, and he expressed some interest in hearing it. And this sort of went back and forth for a while. And then eventually he said, let's do an LP. So I went from having really nothing to all of a sudden one of the greatest, in my opinion, record labels wanting to release like a vinyl record of my work. And I was like, whoa, holy and this is, I've even got them up here. And this was my first record, Not You, that came out. I was in a plane, 90,000 feet in the air when this was officially released.
Where were you going on the plane?
Well, I went to New York because Kai Records were having a festival.
That's right.
So I did my first ever show. It was a duo with Vanessa Rossetto, who was also on Kai.
Oh, that's I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, my first ever live show was in New York, and that was also kind of amazing.
That's so cool. I mean, it's interesting too because it's like I relate to you in a lot of ways. I never really talked to you about it, but like, we probably are known for other things. You are known as Matthew Revert, your lit reactor class. It's the illustrator, you know what I mean? The artist. And I'm known as Christoph the publisher. You know, that most people know me as that, and an editor. I'm known as a good editor. And it's like those are our like skills that we need to survive in a capitalist society. But we're artists, and we have these whole other sides that a lot of people really don't even know about. You know, I don't think a lot of people don't know that you're a writer or even a musician.
Fewer people know I'm a writer now than ever. And I always find for someone like you too, it's like at least for me, all these different facets that people might know me for, they're in some sense my creation. Whereas you're known as a curator of other people's creations. And that's a hard dynamic because you're doing this stuff yourself and you want that to find.
It's an interesting balance, you know. I've had some real existential like moments, and like I've thought about it, and I'm like, you know, now that I've really gotten back into music, I would totally be okay with people not giving a shit about my writing, because I've had people love my writing and then not give a shit about it. You know, I've had both extremes. I had a breakout book. I've had books. I've had an age. You know, I'm kind of like playing with house money with writing. That's how I look at it. Like a gambler, I'm like, you know what? I don't really give a shit at this point. I like curating. I would be much happier to be known as a musician right now. For like this decade, I'd rather be known as Christoph, the publisher musician, than Christoph, the publisher writer. Honestly, I'm just like, I'm gonna write. For me, it's like I'm just at peace with it. It's like whether this does well or not, this is just something I do with writing.
I think there's liberation in that though as well, because you stop writing for any particular market, and
that's not true. I do write for the market. But I don't care. I don't care as much. That's like but I write mainstream shit. You know, you make peace with who you are. I think like I'm you know.
I also think that's really important because I think, especially when people are sort of in their formative sort of teenage years in their early 20s, they feel what they have to be doing is really different and edgy and experimental and crazy. And to be able to say, actually, you know what, I actually want to write something mainstream. I want to find a commercial audience. To know that, it cuts out a lot of bullshit.
Man, like it's just so important. I think a lot of artists don't really have that conversation with themselves.
They don't. Well, I had sort of the opposite conversation, because from when I was a child, I just gravitated toward really odd shit. You know, I grew up in a small country town where people were, you know, they either like sports or they like cars. They didn't like art house cinema or experimental music. You know, that wasn't the thing. So I didn't really have a social group that I could share this sort of stuff with. But I was just really drawn to it. But I had to keep asking myself at one point, you know, am I really drawn to this? Is this what I really love, or do I think this is what I'm supposed to love? But no. I mean, my problem is different to yours. Is if I were to try to directly write something mainstream and commercial, I would probably really fail. I wish I had more of that to me.
I mean, that's the thing. It's just everybody has different passions and abilities, and you know, it's just, you see what I mean. I think with publishing, especially, I'm just like, I have a really healthy zen with it where I'm extremely passionate about it, but I'm extremely jaded about it because I do see it's a lot of just bullshit from all levels, you know, and it's just a lot of it's luck and a lot of it's this or that. And, you know, at the end, it's just like, I mean, even, you know, with Clash, I'm just deciding, hey, I think this is cool. Doesn't mean it's good. It's just, I'm a curator. Maybe I have good taste. Maybe I don't. If people who are but you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't really matter, you know? There's no one. I don't think anybody's a king when it comes to art and say this is good. And you see with the bigger presses, if you throw a bunch of money at something, you can get something that you can convince people it's good. Like you know what I mean? So it just depends what one curator decides is good. And you know, we get very caught up, I think, in the, you know, hierarchy and all that. And I'm just,
absolutely.
I just don't care about that shit anymore. I think I have, like, I do like to make money with like my skills. Like I want to make money with publishing. I want to make money with freelance editing. With my writing, I'd like to get paid, you know, because I'm just spending time. I think it's just time is so valuable to me. So if I'm not getting paid for it, if I don't see a chance, I'm like, oh, fuck, you know, then this better be really, really meaningful to me. You know, so I mean, like,
I think Clash have really helped define yourselves, via that principle. Because I think now you've reached that sort of magical point where there's a lot of people now who they will want to buy a book just because it was chosen by Clash. Similar mindset to when a film is released by Criterion, people who have never heard of the film go, well, Criterion released this, I want to get it. And I think that's kind of a perfect place to be. I mean, not that you're at your end point yet, but I think that's where you're going.
I think it's fun talking to you too, because it's like we both have these skills. Like, and it's funny because your thing was not, you like art, but you didn't mention like art first. It was music, you know. And for me, it was like writing came first, then music. And I was never like, oh, I want to be a publisher and an editor. I just like learned. I'm like, oh, I had a girlfriend and she showed me her book. And I'm like, this is how we fix it. And it just, I could able to see, I can't fix my own shit, but I could fix hers. And I'm like, oh, this is a marketable skill that I enjoy. I guess I'll do more of this. And now, and here we are. And it's like, I think, was it like that with you with Photoshop? Because you're like, yeah, I have Photoshop. I guess I know what I'm doing. And now you become like a pretty prolific cover art.
That is my exact relationship with graphic design. I love it. I'm lucky to be able to make an income doing it. I love all of that. But at the same time, it's weird because I came from a place where I was just working on my own sort of vision, if you want to use that term. And now all of a sudden I'm in a role where my job is to realize the visions of other people. Yes. And obviously I've been doing it for so long now that's just something I do. That's my job. But there was a time when I really struggled with that, where I felt that I was just being used as a tool to you know, meet somebody else's vision rather than somebody who was able to exercise my own vision. And that was a bit of, you know, butting of internal heads about what I was going to do. But then I just took a step back and went, you know, fuck it. I am really damn lucky that I can do this. I have no qualification in graphic design. You know, I fell into it. And now 10 years later, I'm working with amazing presses, amazing authors, amazing record labels. You know, I'm getting more and more opportunities. I mean, not many people can.
Stressful, but it's fun.
It can be. But at the same time, even if I am realizing the vision of somebody else, you know, it's still, I get to be creative and earn money for it. And, you know, some presses give me a lot of, like Clash give me a lot of freedom. Some presses are really specific about, it has to look like this. But thankfully, more of them are on sort of the other side of the fence where it's like, hey, this is the kind of idea of the book, go for it.
I guess the thing, because I'm curious about this, because I start seeing it influence me. Do doing these different things influence each other?
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so one thing I made a rule. Whenever I would write, I would not ever listen to music. I had to write in silence. And I don't even know why I made that rule. It just felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But I do know that with writing in particular, cinema plays a big role in my writing. Like I'm always thinking about films and
Okay.
and the themes of film. So cinema and writing seem to be very, very interlinked for me. And with music sort of, and one of the things I love about it is that it almost for me lives in its own bubble. I started making music again to escape all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I just sort of really just, for me, that was my complete, my little safe space where I just didn't care. I would do what I did. Didn't matter if people hated it. Didn't matter if labels wanted to release it.
Yeah.
This was just me doing my thing. And amazingly, I found labels that want to release it. There's people who listen to it. So that's great. It's amazing that I've managed to find some form of audience with that. But that to me is its own little sacred space that exists outside of everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just so important. I don't know. I was like, I've been trying to do like a newsletter, like blog post thing each week. And I was writing about how I just need it, even though it makes my life even more exhausting, and I'm exhausted and it's tiring. And I'm lucky to be in a band with guys I love. And that helps a lot. Because I've been in
How long have you guys been together now as this band?
Well, the band you heard, like it was a 2-piece at first, which we've been playing together since just the two of us. Well, we played together since 2012.
Okay, so you go back a ways.
We go back a ways, me and the guitar player. The drummer, which is kind of the missing ingredient, even though he's not on the first album, that kind of put it together. Like I'm actually really excited about the second album more than the first, even though the first isn't even out yet. But because it's like a full band, and it's like, okay, we got what we were missing for, even though it was pretty great with just Sean playing drums. But it's like having those right people, because I mean, oh God, like I can remember one, man, it was just miserable. I mean, it was just so miserable because you're stuck, you put time in, it's hard to find other people. You got, people, and you're invested, and and it's just, yeah. So having that, and it just, what's the word? It's just, I need it. I made a conclusion, like I need to be in the band. I need to be working with other people. And I think different people, and it's funny, like I've had, what's her name? It's escaping me. But she's a single artist. Like she just does her own stuff by herself. Her name will come, Thursday Simpson. Thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thursday. And she does her own stuff. She does everything's great musician. I'm not a good enough musician to do that. I just, for what I want to do, I want to like kind of make rock songs with hooks. Like I need that other person. So music, I think that's been the tough part, is having the right people, where if I don't have the right people, I can still do it. And I switched an instrument and just went to bass and singing and made songs that way, but it just doesn't work as well. I need that drummer and I need that guitar player, or the magic's kind of missing.
I although that's not the way I've done music, I totally do understand why that would be so important, especially for what you're doing, but also in terms of music being a great escape for you, having that sense. I guess it would feel like a family.
Yeah, I need that physicalness. I think that's the thing. I need that physicalness. Like I'm finally like, all right, I'm gonna lose some weight and get back in shape. So I was looking at my old band videos. I'm like, we have a show. Like we have a show. We're playing at a fucking farm. It's not it's gonna probably be a bunch of boomers, but at a farm.
Still, you have a show during a pandemic. That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's in like the end of May. So I'm like, all right, I got to get back in shape. I'm like eating healthier. I'm going to the gym. I'm like, all right, like I gotta do this now. And you know what I mean? It just gets me kind of carrying. Honestly, it's like I've seen writers and publishers they just lose it. They just crack. And I get it, because it's just stressful. And it's a job that makes no sense, publishing, especially the small press type. You're always playing against like the odds. And it's just like, and it's just so hard. And I think having the band and the music, it it makes it less hard. It's like weird. It's like I have way less time still, and then have this a whole other thing I got to focus on, but it makes the writing and publishing highs and lows, more the lows, but the highs too, because those can fuck with you too. They make me more even keel. And it's like, all right, whatever, this is my job. I just approach it like that.
Yeah, no, totally. I totally get that. I think just touching on the small press issue, what you said about how so many of them crack. I think with small press, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. Small press is predicated upon enthusiasm, and enthusiasm is great to get the boosters going, but it dies out. So that's why so many small presses last only a few years. I mean, I remember the small press landscape when I started designing, and so many of those amazing presses I work with, they're just gone now.
It's
including the one that released Legging Man Books, which I helped run. That went years ago.
I remember that. It's a good press,
It's
tough.
It's
it's luck, I mean, I'm privileged and lucky. It's a combination of stuff, and it's just, for now, I like it. I mean, I do other shit too. I mean, I'm freelance editing and I'm doing other things, and my eggs aren't all in that fucking basket. And I have my own writing. I rode the Mandy train. Like, I remember I was a professional writer for a year, writing shit, being Chuck Tingles, being his poor man or poor woman, Andy DeSantis. So, I found ways to like get some cash with it. So, but yeah,
I think this is why Clash to me stand out, because that enthusiasm lasts for like 6 months, a year, where people are like, oh, I own a press. That's really exciting. But you both yourself and Lisa, you're really good at just approaching it now as it's a job. It's what and that's so important to get into that mindset.
I think it helps that I actually, just like you, like formatting, like you don't really like I don't know, maybe you do, but I mean,
sometimes.
I'm doing art design. I actually really, really enjoy editing, and I really enjoy looking through. I keep open submissions. I really enjoy reading. I just love reading, and editing's kind of like reading with a video game aspect to it. Like, oh, okay, let's, so I love working with young writers, like somebody like Autumn, who's, she's in her 20s, and she has this just raw, amazing talent. And it's like, oh, but I need a little work with story and maybe, something like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I like doing that. Let's just do that. So then they get a value, I get a value, so we're exchanging something. And then, I enjoy editing. If I didn't enjoy editing, I wouldn't do this fucking job. It's not worth it. It's really not
exactly. And it's that joy that sustains you through the low periods of owning the press, because there's a lot of low periods with low press.
Yeah, I mean, there is definite lows. It's cool. I mean, I definitely have a guy who is a good example of like a publisher who's a musician. I would say that's like Johnny Temple, who's a really good guy. He, is the editor-in-chief of Akashic Books. He's a dude I've known for about, I want to say 10 years. I known him as a writer, never as a publisher. I submitted something a long time ago. He got to see, but yeah, it's not like, I think he's done with the music aspect of it more. I'm kind of like just wanting to get rolling. Like he plays shows for money in like Russia for his band Girls Against Boys, and that's awesome.
I guess the question you have to ask yourself then is, because there's no reason why you can't reach a point where you are playing shows overseas, or at the very least being frequently booked to play shows. How are you then going to balance that when music starts to become...
Honestly, like if we're making a little more money, I don't like doing the drudgery. Like I do the bullshit stuff of it. We have help finally. We've been able to hit a publicist and helps out. I'm not a copy editor. I mean, I'll do formatting when needed. We have these are other people that have helped us with copy editing. I'm a line editor and a content editor. I would still edit. I would just maybe delegate. Like I would still edit. Like I wondered that. Like I was like, what if the Dionysus Effect actually like, it would be because there's a rock revival. It wouldn't be because of the Dionysus Effect. I just know how shit works now. It's like, it would be we're in the right place at the right time. And that is a lot of things with art. I think that is successful in like a monetary like sense. A lot of times just being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it is.
That happened. So if like 2023, people are like, hey, rock's good again. Let's fucking, we would probably be in a good position with that. I would just, we would probably hire somebody to do some of the unfun stuff. That's what I would do. If I'm actually like paying money, I'd still edit books. I would still edit. I mean, it's just reading. It's just involved reading. Like, that's how I look at it. I'd get somebody to do royalties,
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
I don't like doing it. Like, I don't fucking enjoy it, but I do it. I mean, I don't want to not pay royalties. That's like the worst thing you can do as a publisher, but yeah, no, I would make it work. I'm good at making things work, I guess. And you're pretty good at obviously balancing things. What do you do to balance so many things?
I wish I were a bit better. Okay, so I haven't written a book in years. I really do want to start working.
Are you itching? Are you itching to like get back on
it? I have been. I've been itching for a long time, and I've been itching for so long that I'm sort of I've become a bit intimidated by it. But that's all bullshit. You got to be intimidated and do it anyway. That's what you got to do. But because also when I write, it's like becomes a real obsessive process. I approach writing very differently to everything else, where it's so meticulous and so so I just know how much it takes out of me to write. Like Basil Ganglia, that's it's a 100-page book, and it took like 2.5 years to write. Wow. And that was a lot of writing too. That wasn't just
my wife's going through that now. She's working on her first novella, Lisa, and it's been a journey, but it's really fucking great book, but it's taken a long time. I get it. It takes a lot of energy to write.
It does. It takes a huge amount of energy, and so when it comes to writing, I haven't found that balance yet. I'm still figuring that out, and I hope I find it out soon, because there's some plans in motion that will require me to find that out pretty soon. But really, when it comes to, I got so stuck just working so long on just design work, and so what I decided to do was, because I would do design work right up until bedtime pretty much. And so
do that with editing, by the way.
Yeah, so you know exactly how that feels.
Perfect.
So I had to then just say to myself, look, you got to give yourself time. No matter what you do at that time, you've got to give it to yourself. So I make a point now, every single night I will just spend time, and I'll make a bit of visual art that I'll post on Instagram. I'll work on some music. I'll do something that is completely, totally for me, and that has helped a lot. And that is helping reintroduce me to the idea of balance. Because I need it. Like the tape that I have coming out soon, that was important, because
is this the metal tape?
The metal tape. The metal tape. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
So because that was actually an opportunity for me to say, oh, I've got an album to do, and to schedule that in and really focus on it. And that was nice, because I hadn't released an album in a little bit. So it was good to see that I was still able to schedule that and have it work and feel natural. And that was really good.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's worked for me, at least with writing, and I probably write about an hour and a half, 2 hours if I'm lucky. I do
this every day.
No, I don't like, it's not worth it to write I used to be all about writing every day. I like to treat it like a 5-day-a-week thing. Maybe 6. I take a day off or 2. Sundays I've been taking off because I have band practice. But I like to just do it first, or do it late at night, like you're saying. If I do it first,
writing early morning, late night, that was the best for me.
I'll do it first, like around like when I'm having breakfast or something. Like I'll go a lot of times work at a cafe just to get out of the house and go crazy, and I'll do, and then I'll do writing, and I'll also I manage the Twitter site, so I'll do that nonsense for class. I fucking hate social media, but I'm decent at it when it comes to other. I'm terrible at it with myself, but I'm actually good at promoting and doing other people. So I'll do that. I'll just I'll take a writing break, fucking check emails and shit. I'm good at my ADD is like my strength and my weakness. So, and I have different writing projects, and this has been the real trick. Even though this probably lost me an agent that I had one, I like to just jump around. So but it makes it feast or famine, where I'll have like 4 books done or none. Yeah. And it's a system. I'm not saying it's a good one, but I'll just go with the hot hand and I'll write. And so there's at least a decent amount of passion, and interest. Even if I'm not inspired, I'll kind of push myself to at least go to something that seems interesting. and I just jump from that, and that kind of helps. And our nighttime, I've been going out with Lisa. She likes to write at a bar. She cannot write at our home here because
Oh,
it's like
that's interesting.
yeah. So we go to a bar that we like, and she'll sit and she's fine, So you kind of find like what works when you're working, because she's packing books, she's doing all this other stuff, she does freelance editing too. It's a lot. So it's like, I think here it's like, oh, I'm working. And then she goes out and it's like, oh, I'm writing, and she's close to getting her novella done. I mean, it's pretty cool. So, but music's just, I don't know. I had a really interesting thing. This was before like the sad stuff that happened to me. I won't get on that here. But I did not want to do anything. I came back from my vacation and I was just really tired and I didn't want to do any work stuff. And I grabbed the bass I keep near the bed, and I just started playing it, because I'm like, if I don't do something, if I don't create some energy, it's not going to come, and I need to have some energy. And I just decided, I forced myself to write a song, and just a bass line, not the melodies or anything. And it ended up being great, like a great song. It's like I got lucky. It's not because, oh yeah, but I kind of try to push myself to create energy. I think inspiration, energy, whatever we want to call it. I try to, sometimes I have to rub shit together, and that's kind of helped me.
That does actually lead to a quick, because I'm not familiar with working within a band dynamic.
Yeah.
So when it comes to writing a song, like, do you only ever write songs together, or do songs get written by one person then brought in?
I write the bass line and the melody. Sometimes I'll have lyrics. Sometimes I'll have Sean help me. But now what I've been doing for the next stuff is I'll come up with the bass line, and then I'll show it to my drummer. And man, that has helped so much more. Like, it just gives it a whole other dynamic. So I'll have a melody, I'll have at least some lyrics, I'll have a chorus, I'll have a verse, and I give it to the drummer, and then we give it to the guitar player. And he just puts the fucking sprinkles on it, basically. Or he'll like, oh wait, let's do this, let's try that. And he's like a producer, recorder. So yeah, and that just has made it, having that has made it so much easier. And I think that's like, what's nice is I don't feel it all on my shoulders. Like, I got this drummer now who I can bounce this stuff off of, because Sean lives about 2.5 hours away from us. So we only practice with him like once or twice a month, but me and the drummer will practice every week. So we're kind of like, we make sure to have a really tight rhythm section. And then we're really blessed to have this amazing guitar player, like dude who's like a child prodigy. And I'm not some prodigy musician, but I can carry a tune and I can come up with catchy melodies. So it's like, it's just this great mix, and so it's gonna be weird to finally put this stuff out, in the next couple months or whatever, and see how people think. But I'm proud of it, and like you're like, that's all you can feel good about. Like, you just like, I did the stuff I wanted to do. I had a goal. I wanted to make a good rock record with hooks and something I'd like to listen to. That's what I'm kind of into right now, in my life. I guess I am more into like mainstream shit, even though at Clash I do like literary stuff more that kind of isn't mainstream. I like stuff that's like right on that line between like indie and mainstream. But
well, I just even like just when you and I have been talking about your music over the past couple of years, I mean, even that, it's obvious just how much energy it gives you. Like, you just really lift up when you talk about it.
Yeah, no, it's where my passion is. I would say with art, like music is definitely the thing I'm most passionate about. Writing's just cool. I just like to do it. It's fun to tell a story. I just really enjoy it. And but I'd rather, it's funny. I have had like Skip and this other horror writer who I really love the music. And I'm like, you know what? I'm totally okay with these writers I look up to not giving a shit about my writing, but loving my music. I'll be more than happy with that.
I can understand that.
I'll be very happy if Brian Keane loves my music. You know what I mean? That would mean more to me in a weird way than if he liked my writing. I don't know why that's just, and that I guess tells me something where my heart
aligns with your passion. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's so exciting for you to be on the cusp of this, because I remember how excited I was before my first record came out. Just the anticipation of it. Just
it's hard to do rock and roll because it's like, it's not, you need a band. I think that's the one genre where you need a real band. I
I
think
think
like,
so, yeah.
I think other pop, you don't need it. I think you need another. Not always. It helps to have another guy or producer. I think, unless you're really doing like, I think what you're doing is like a pure vision.
But one thing I do make sure of is that I have somebody who I really trust who will mix and master it.
Something like that. Yeah.
And that especially for the latest release, it's amazing how much that can just add to it.
Yeah, the mass. I mean, it makes a huge difference. You need that person you can trust. We were talking about with Thursday Simpson, how much they play a role in mastering and recording. I mean, I'm lucky I have Sean. I just, I need. I mean, I think that's the thing though. As much as I love music, if I wasn't in the right situation, I don't know how serious I'd be. And that sucks to think about. Like existentially, this thing that I'm truly passionate about. I have a great guitar player who can record. We can record for free. You know what I mean? Like
that is an amazing boon.
Yeah, like, and he's a great producer. It's like I think for me, it was like I'm in the most perfect situation ever. When it comes to music, to not do it would be wrong. Like it would just feel like an affront to the spirit. I don't know. I sound pretentious, but it's like you know what I mean? It's like the rock gods. It's like, and then once we got bread, it was like, okay, gotta just do this. Whether I'm exhausted.
I guess just a more pragmatic way to look at it is that's just embracing opportunity when it comes.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's just, you never know. I mean, I don't have the, I'm not into the whole like I want to be a famous rock star thing. It would kind of suck if it happened, to be honest with you. I know that sounds. I kind of would not like it in some ways. I would. Hopefully, rock will never get that big.
No, being famous in general would be so fucking stressful.
No, I don't want that. I just want. I'm like kind of a working dude. Like I just want to be able to get paid to play shows. And we could, I'd be like, if we could just make a decent profit on a tour, I'd be that I'm happy with. Like if the band can like pay for themselves to like tour and not have to work like for a month or two, awesome. Or we sell a song. Like that's the thing. I'm kind of like, I don't need to be famous, but I wouldn't mind getting paid if it happens, but I'm not, I'm realistic. Like music is, people, it's easier to be a writer than a musician. I will say that. And I must say, I do get really annoyed at writers because they're like, oh, this is so hard. Oh my God. And like, I'm like, no, it's really not. It's really not that bad. Like I get emotionally, it's tough.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, I have friends who are just musicians and they have said to me so much, oh my God, I can't believe you write a book. That's so hard. I could never write a book. But then the other side of that is I can't believe you just wrote an album. I can't. And there's all that stuff that goes with it. Like the thing about writing is if you just have pen and paper, anyone can be a writer.
You can be. That's the thing.
There's a musician. To some extent, you need tools.
Yeah,
you need more investment.
I mean, at least in like this country, like unless you are a beloved band, the only way you're going to make some money, you sell it to a commercial or you play covers. You play you're a bar band that plays covers, or you play weddings, and you go like that's it's hard. It's just hard because it's costs money. Instruments cost money and all that, and and you have to deal with other people. You have to deal with at least two other people, and you have to depend on them. I mean, I remember having one guy. We had the like bass player from hell, and we're like, oh, we finally got rid of her. Like it was she was awful. She's the only person I will really just be like, she was fucking awful. And then like we find this bass player, and he's great, and he's like, oh, I have to go back to Thailand. I'm like, fuck, like you can't win, And the drummer couldn't find a job. And it's just getting more and more like, it's all that. So when I tried writing and just giving a break from music, I was like, man, this is easier, man. You can actually make a little money with this even, like, oh shit, you're not losing money on this. Yeah. You're not paying for rehearsal space. So the writing thing never was that bad. Publishing, you just don't want to let people down. That's the only hard part. And just certain things are out of your control. Why one book?
The pressure builds the more people you have on your roster.
Yeah.
Like it's really easy at the start when you release like 3 books and you can give all the time in the world to those books.
Yeah.
5 years down the track when you've got like 50 books you got to try to juggle, that's when it gets hard.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's enjoyable. But yeah, you just don't know, you can have an amazing book, and it's great, and just people are just not interested, and there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot force people to get excited about a book. And if that person,
Or there's a rare adverse to that. You can have a really shitty book which you hate, and then it just does so well. I remember when Leggy Man started, Robert, who was like still my best friend, but we decided we'd release like a test book. So he wrote his book, and we're gonna release that and learn how this process worked.
yeah,
And for reasons none of us will ever be able to explain, that book just blew up, sold thousands and thousands of copies, and he began to hate the fact that this writing that he didn't like was selling so much, because it almost was embarrassing to him that writing he didn't
I
believe in was being
totally
so.
relate to this. That's what happened to me with the Crocoduck book,
Mm.
the fucking Crocoduck book. I mean, I didn't even edit it. I was just like, who gives a shit? We'll be more authentic. And I put it out, and and then it just like, it's just the media. The media made that book. They're like, oh, cool, here's a fun story. And then, and then Chuck Tingle's like, oh shit, I should make my stuff political. And then he did it. And I'm like, oh shit, this guy's doing it more. I gotta keep going. And then we kind of just, and I was like, I'm not competing with Chuck Tingle as Mandy DeSandra anymore. This is just not. I need to be Christoph Paul again. But it was it was a fun ride. It was a fun ride, to do that. But yeah, no. And then but it was cool. Like the Mandy stuff helped, get some seed money for class, and here we are, talking on podcasts now about art
Which
and
is
stuff.
the funny thing about what happened with Robert's book was, because that was our first release, I think it geared us up for really unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, you just release anything and thousands of people will buy it.
Yeah, it's just it sucks that way. You just don't know, it's, you just see, like, I now see like totally how the meat is made, and I still like the meat, but it's a little disenchanting now. You just see, you're like, you're eating the fucking meat sandwich, and you're like, oh, this is still good and tasty, but I know that 10 cows heads were chopped, you know what I mean? It's like, and grinded up, and it's just, I think with publishing and writing, it's a lot more social proof. Like, it's people saying, oh, this is good, and this, and hyping and all that, and knowing the right people. I mean, it's like with any industry, it's a lot of bullshit. I mean, I'm not a bullshit person, so it's like that shit frustrates me, and I have to just let it go. Music I like more because it's kind of more honest in a way, where it's like you can listen to a song, and if I mean, I think in experimental, it's harder to say, oh, is this, but like if you're writing a rock song and you play it at an audience and they're like nodding their heads and dancing, you're like, oh, I guess this is a pretty decent song. It's a more utilitarian art form. It's sometimes, not always.
There is one thing I really envy though about you making rock music, and that's like somebody can come up to you and say, what type of music do you make? And you can say, oh, I make rock music.
Yeah.
People ask me that question, and it's difficult to emerge from that
metal, man. You can do the metal.
Now with this tape, I can say I make metal. That's fine.
Which people love.
With other stuff though, it's like it's hard to come out of that encounter without sounding insufferable.
Music can mean so many things to so many different people, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hate genre terms. I mean, I fucking hate them. I hate them with a passion, because they're just marketing terms. They're not real. I mean, I guess horror is horror, but like, I mean, I just, but I don't know. Music's just, I mean, I'm a fan of the Beavis and Butthead, like, kind of criticism of this is cool or it sucks. And I think that works for people's personal tastes. I've learned that there's not music that's bad. There's music that's not my thing. And there's music that is my thing. And I kind of see it like that with music. If you're able to write a song and it has something interesting about it, something memorable, to me, that's a good song. With books, it's different. Like, I can see things in a very binary way. After seeing, like, I don't know, 3,500 manuscripts and open submissions, I can rate shit. I have I can do the 1 to 10 thing if I need to. Like, it's different. You know, I've lost
It's
that.
interesting that though, because that's become a mandatory part of your job. If for some reason you pivoted and you were all of a sudden running a record label, I do wonder if you would then start to have a more binary sense of this music.
I'm sure I would. I'm sure. Well, it would be stuff I would like to. It would be stuff I like. I mean, the thing with Clash is like, we're not a single genre, but for me, it's just, okay, do I really like this voice? Do I like the style? Is there an interesting character? Does a story, does this, whatever the story is, it doesn't have to be a traditional one. Does it keep me till the end? And I think the toughest books, the ones that break my heart, are those first magical 10 pages where I'm like, holy shit, this is it. This is the writer. Holy fuck, how did we get something so good? And then you see them just slag to the middle, and it just loses its steam. It lost that magic because they're trying to tell a story, and maybe they shouldn't even try to tell a story. Maybe they just keep the language fucking exquisite the whole time, and that might be good enough. But they're like, oh, I gotta put a plot here, and you know, those are the ones that break my heart as a publisher.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Those are like, oh, come on. And I want to fix it because I'm an editor. I'm like, oh, maybe I can cut this and I can fix this somehow, and it's just not fixable. And you're like, fuck. That's where that passion is. It's just like, I love the passion of finding amazing book or helping a writer like Katie Quinn. Like, we worked really hard, you know, with her book Girl in the Walls, and it's just like, that's the magic. That's why I keep doing this thing, you know. It's really fun to build a book from a pitch to, hey, write me an outline, you know. Just, I like the mechanics of building a story and helping the writer who, you know, have a good style but maybe you're trying to figure out story stuff and help them. I like that. I really genuinely enjoy doing that.
And yeah, I get that, because I still get that sense from design, because I'll if I've designed a cover that to me just works, I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh my god. And you'll sometimes hear like an author will see the cover that's been designed and they'll cry, and it's like, holy shit, this means so much to them, and I've helped facilitate that, and that is so meaningful. And
that's the magic.
Like, no matter how many years, if I see a good book cover, whether it's by me or somebody else, I will stop and I'll pause and I'll go, oh, I just feel this rush of energy just staring at that.
It's a beautiful thing. No, I mean, there is something really exciting about making a book cover. It's I working with you, it's like, I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want, and you know this pretty well. And I'll be very.
There's a couple that take a few goes, but sometimes first go.
Yeah, no, those are beautiful things. Those are beautiful things, and it's just knowing what your skills. I mean, I know, like, I just know what doesn't work, and I know when it's going in the right direction, and I just go. It's gut. I'm lucky to have a decent gut, or it'd be a book or a design or something where I'm like, yes, this is in the right direction, you know.
And it also helps with like Greg Maney is a good example. I almost feel like I know what his cover should look like before he has an idea what he wants.
You
like,
nailed him. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, and he's so receptive as well. It's just those sort of relationships when you're designing, and I guess it would be like any creative field. It's just so exciting.
Greg is pretty great. I mean, he really is. Like, he's just a burst of energy. I have to send you some time, because my band, like, even my band knows who Greg is. Greg just, people know him somehow. He just has this energy that you kind of draw.
I have all the time in the world for Greg. I love him.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. So we have this song, and we just call it, it's just this poppy dance song that's rock, but it's like dancey as fuck. And it's been called the Greg Mania song, because it's like drummer of Greg Mania. He's like, I feel like Greg Mania would really like the song. And I'm like, what? Just the Greg Mania song. And it's good. It's a catchy song, I have to say. It's great. I'll have to send it to you sometime, but
you please do.
But yeah, no, I mean, I do want to talk a little bit about the latest album. I just think it's so cool that you fucking wrote a metal album. Like,
well,
when did this start? Like, give me a little lowdown here.
It's kind of amazing it took so long, really, because metal is my first musical love.
You're amazing.
I know. It. Just always loved it. And I've always wanted, I mean, there was a few little experiments I did sort of late teen years with my friend Robert. We made some rubbish on cassette, but you know, they're not really worth writing home about. But I've always loved it, and I just don't know why it took me so long to really dive into it. But there was an Amplify festival run by John Abbey from Erstwhile Records, and I was actually going to go to New York to play this festival. And then pandemic hit, so that obviously didn't happen. And so he decided he was going to pivot and do an online Amplify festival. And I sort of talked to John a lot during that, and so I contributed one piece to it, and then quarantine kept on going, so I ended up submitting a second piece to it, and then quarantine kept on going, and at this point it just felt so absurd. I was asked to do another piece, and I'm thinking, what this is ridiculous. And so I thought, you know what, fuck it, I am just going to record a metal track.
Yeah.
Because the other stuff I was doing was kind of more electroacoustic, noodly sort of sounds. This, I just wanted to do something ferocious, really ferocious, that exemplified the sort of metal that I like. Yeah. And I wanted to also speak to how crazy the year had been, how crazy it was. I was doing a third piece in this festival, and just how crazy it all was. And so I did that, and it was great. I was really happy with it. And people like Wire magazine wrote it up and things like that. It's like, wow, that's great. And then I don't know if you know Joe Bouthier Jr.
No, I don't.
He's a guy who's been in the sort of publishing world. He might be somebody you want to talk to, because he's a publishing dude who just launched a tape label. So yeah, I've known Joe for a long time, since he was like a teenager, really. And he was gradually getting more and more into metal and experimental music, and eventually tapes and things like that.
Yeah.
And he said to me one day, just sort of maybe as a joke, he said, hey, if you ever want to start a tape label with me, let's do it. And I said, I don't have time to run a tape label. I just don't. Yeah. If you ever want to start one, I can give you advice and help you out with designs and stuff like that. And I think within a week, he decided, I'm going to do a tape label. And so he's called the Gerionius, and he's already signed some really great metal acts on it. He's going to release a lot of experimental music too. But yeah, and so he said, I want to release this track you did. And I'm thinking, well, if you're going to release that track, I need a side B. So I spent time recording side B, and then I sent it to a guy called Alan Jones, who mixed and mastered it, and he really nailed it. He didn't just mix them out, he added to it, and he boosted it, and it came out the other end sounding better than ever. And so yeah, called Hail Obliteration. It's at the printing place now, and so I assume it's on Bandcamp to pre-order.
Yeah,
and then the actual physical copy, and I think you can listen to side A on that.
I heard side A, not side B.
Yeah. So and then and it'll be out soon, and I'm guessing people can buy the tape or they can buy it digitally, and I don't know, maybe both will be made available to hear.
Release date, the full. I wonder if we'll even. It might.
Do you know? So what was that?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was thinking while talking. The digital release date for the album.
I imagine the digital. I think he's going to wait. Way a lot of these places work is sometimes depending on their schedule. They have a lot of cassettes to print, so you might have to wait.
Oh, so he's going to wait till those are printed out, and then
yeah. So cassettes are a lot quicker to print than say vinyl record. I remember when my first record came out, it was months of waiting, and they fucked up the pressing a few times. So I imagine it's going to be ready within the next couple of weeks. Yeah. And then it'll be officially released, and this is great to finally have that side of me captured.
Metal side, man.
Yeah, it really. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been happier with something I've made, to be honest.
That's a beautiful thing. I know. I relate. I mean, that's how I felt with I shared it with you with my own album, and it's the best feeling. Like just to make a work of music, an album, It just feels good. It just feels good, to especially something you want to make. And it sounds like
exactly.
The whole album was the thing you really wanted to make.
It was just nice listening back to that stuff and enjoying it as a metal fan, as somebody who likes sludgy, doomy, disgusting, vicious music. Yeah. And just listening back to it and going, God, yeah, I like this. This is
That's a good feeling.
This needs to exist.
That's what it's about. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what I wanted, I wanted music I could just if I wanted to work out at the gym, I could listen to it. And that's enough for me, the rest is just kind of gravy. But that's really exciting. I mean, and you did your own, I'm assuming you did did you do your own album cover as well?
Yeah. Originally that was just taken from, because when the Amplify things were released, I just did a little bit of artwork for each one. And so I thought, see, originally I was, because it was not a metal festival, I was going to completely hide the fact it was a metal track, call it something really innocuous and put like some gentle, but I thought, no, fuck it. That's disrespectful to the metal.
Yeah.
Just
you got to show the metal.
it has to, you have to know.
You can't piss the metal gods off, man. You gotta please them.
Exactly.
Please the rock gods, man. Well, fuck, man. We're kind of wrapping up to the end of this, but man, this has been a lot of fun, man.
It has been fun, and I will have to go soon, so this works out well.
I'm just stoked that we're both gonna have albums coming out, and
I can't wait till we both have our babies, and
I know babies are coming.
I'm excited about. So I feel a great deal of responsibility for your album art, because I just want it to be
art. Yeah, no,
because I want it to be I want it to be something that you're so happy with.
Yeah.
Something that you feel has earned its right to represent your music, because I know how much your music means to you, and I just want the design to accompany that.
I'm glad I sent you the sky. I might have to send you one other song, because there's going to be an 8th song on it, and I'm going to try to put the ska song as a secret song.
Anything that's going to be associated with it, send it to me.
I'll send it to you. I don't think I sent you Blue Valentine, so yeah, I'll have to send you that one. That's our more poppy, bluesy rock song. Well, what you also I wanted to mention, because I know you're doing reissues with like 1111.
Yeah, I'll mention that really quickly. Yeah, so
before we
1111 Press, they contacted.
I really have a lot
of 1111. They've been releasing amazing stuff. They're a press that's really on the rise, I think. Yeah. And Andrew from 1111 contacted me and said, have you thought about reissuing any of your books? We'd be interested. And that was the first time my mind had shifted to thinking about my writing in a long time. And I got really excited. They're going to reissue everything in 2 separate sets. So the first reissue is going to be my first sort of comedic absurdist works.
Yeah.
Million Virgins of the Right, Tumors Made Me Interesting, and How to Avoid Sex is one set. And then the next year, Basil Ganglia and Human Trees. And I probably shouldn't say this because it's dependent on me and it's unofficial. I'm hoping to write a new book to finish that off. So that next set has a new book.
So with 1111.
Yes, but I mean, it's not being contracted yet because I haven't written the book.
That's kind of a perfect place, I think, when I think of, because I feel like, well, he's publishing Cameron. I feel like he's kind of carrying the flag of a lazy fascist.
Yeah, he's a younger dude. I remember when we first we're talking about him reissuing the books. I Zoomed with him, and he was like fanboying over Lazy Fascist.
Yeah.
I think that because I was so heavily involved with Lazy Fascist, I didn't quite realize the cultural impact it was having.
It did, and it really did.
And hearing these people talk about it like this, and he was talking about how he loved hearing these stories from the early days. I'm thinking, shit, to me it felt like last year. So so great place for it to be, and it's gonna be like a deluxe version, basic version. Deluxe version will be a set with full color art and stuff like that inside the book, and then like a standard version.
I'm excited.
So that's hopefully first set should be out this year.
Book and a new book in the works, and you got the album. Any are you like kind of tapped out with music right now, or are you just like
I have some ideas. I'm probably going to release another tape through No Rent Records, who's a label I love. They've asked me about another tape. Awesome. I love cassette tapes as a format. I know
you do.
And so that's probably going to be something I think about. And there's other sort of vague ideas, nothing concrete. Yeah. So I'm just going to let Hail Obliteration just live for a while and just enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. And well, shit, man, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad
I've enjoyed this a lot.
Really talk and in a non-work setting.
I know, right? Usually it's just like 5 minutes before as like a proper meeting. We just discuss shit. Yeah.
Clovers and shit. This was a lot of fun, man. I needed this pick me up. I really enjoyed this. So
it's just got 11 a.m. here, so this is giving me a boost.
Yeah, you got to get your. I'm winding down. You're winding up. So all right, man. This was a lot of fun.
And enjoy it.
Much love, Matthew. And
thank you so much, Christoph.
All right,
love you. Bye.
Take care, man.